Welcome, comrades. This is Gaming with Dawson. Of Season 2 of the Utopian Community series. What we're gonna do this episode is we're gonna continue on with the remaining floors of the vertical farm. The consequences of American capitalism are being felt around the world, actually. From the starving kids of Africa to the people in Asia who are getting paid nothing, being starved to submission. To animals being neglected. What we need to do is we need to overthrow the bourgeoisie governments. And overthrow the elites to where there are no elites whatsoever. Like, because we have a choice whether or not we want to break the law. Cats don't have that choice because they have to kill. Why they have to kill? They are obligate carnivores. Cats don't have that choice, but to hunt and kill. If they had that choice to hunt, but didn't want to, they would probably die. Out in the wild, if cats want food, they gotta hunt. The cats are most likely to bring home the gory gifts are the spayed female cats. Because the cat's owner is like their surrogate child, who sucks at hunting. Before slavery, there was primitive communism, in which families lived in peace. That only fought if necessary. That only fought if necessary. Then, went from that to slavery, in which the more superior tribal group ended up enslaving in which the strongest ones ended up enslaving the weaker ones. And feudalism. And capitalism. Which is America's probably descending back into feudalism and slavery. much of human history was driven by imperialism and slavery. The abolition of slavery was pretty recent, actually, in human history. From the time the first life forms came to be, which was about 4.3 to 4.6 billion years ago, to the either the Silurian or Ordovician period, like, life became more advanced. From the time the Homo genus sprung to Earth, which was about 3 million years ago, to today, about 300,000 years ago, the first specimens of Homo sapiens appeared. From that to today, in about a tenth of that time, civilizations started springing up. Like humans started traveling the world entirely. And 3,000 years from now, no. Human nature, there's a hypothesis with sharks, they prepare for war before they're born. Before they're even born, they prepare for war by killing all the ones who are less competitive. You know, in primitive communism, which is what most animals are, they would only fight if necessary. Like, when they share a common food source, and that food source is not enough to feed both of them and keep them alive, they fight over it. That's an example of fighting out of necessity. They share a water source and there's not enough water to hydrate both of them and keep them alive, they'd have to fight over it. In nature, competition is only necessary when there is actual physical scarcity, but not when there is economic scarcity. Because just because something's economically scarce does not mean they're physically abundant. Does not mean they're physically scarce. Because it's possible for an object to be economically scarce, yet physically abundant. An example of such, housing. 30,000 years ago was when we first learned how to control other animals. But when we invented agriculture, mice became a pretty big problem, which means cats ended up moving to human settlements as a result. In that case, cats domesticated themselves. They're much better hunters than we are. You know, how does biology ensure the most competitive survive? For the lions, they straight up kill the less competitive ones. They simply kill the runts. They don't just leave them to die. They just kill the runts. They just kill the runts. Same thing with a lot of other carnivores, in which they would kill the runts of the litter. That is carnivorous behavior. With herbivores, you give your child a bunny and an apple. The child would be playful with the bunny and eat the apple. Give a lion a bunny and an apple, the lion wouldn't be able to eat the apple, yet the lion would kill the bunny. The reason cats still hunt even though we've domesticated them, there may be nothing we can do about their hunting, except leave it be. That is because cats are obligate carnivores, meaning they must eat meat to survive. In the world of biology, if you want meat, you gotta hunt, or find a carcass. In that case, scavenge. If you want to work, you gotta eat. If you want food, you gotta work. You gotta work for it. But if you don't have food, it's harder for you to work when you don't have enough food to survive. Even our bodies can go a couple weeks without food. If you want to do work, you gotta eat. Which probably explains why unemployment rate is so high in countries that are in the middle of a famine. Because the ones struggling to get enough food, they're too weak to get a job. Because of malnutrition. If I was working with farm animals, I'd let them live to be like 25 or 30 years old. I'd let them live their natural lifespan. I'd build a wall for their own protection. I'd do it to protect them from predators. Like, it'll be a 30-foot wall. That's about 3 feet thick. Let me explain to you why society allows us to be lazy. Imagine killing every person because they were sedentary, and suddenly there was a famine. Everybody, like, the entire human race would die out because of that. Society needs some lazy people, or some people to be lazy. By nature, those who are lazy tend to have the greatest chance of surviving long enough to reproduce. You know, in a public ownership of a company, Walt Disney Company is an example of a public company. GameStop is an example of such too. The real reason why McDonald's doesn't pay their employees $15 an hour like they should, is that even if everybody working for McDonald's got paid the same, it still wouldn't be enough for them to live and survive. It still wouldn't be enough for them to survive. That is because demand for fast food, because if McDonald's wants to pay their employees $15 an hour, like everybody the same, and $15 an hour, we gotta have a huge demand for fast food. We don't want a huge demand for fast food because it's not very healthy. The biggest factor is it's not very healthy. The healthiest options at theme parks are also the cheapest options when it goes to food. Ironically though, the healthiest options are the cheapest options. The reason we have to increase the shelf life of food as much as possible, it's so it'll stay fresh during long distances of transportation from one area of the world to another. But if we flash freeze the food, how we control the pests in our collectivized farms in our socialist communist society. We're not going to use pesticides because they have very little effect. In the long run, they have very little effect. The best solution carnivorous plants. And for the mice and rat problem in our farms, cats would do the trick. Because cats keep the mice at bay. You know, in an anarchist society, the amount of it ultimately leads. Suddenly, it'll ultimately lead to communism, just like socialism, which is. In communism, the ones with the greatest need for food takes control of the food supply, just like nature. Like, in my form of communism, at least. Because in the world of biology, animals with the greatest need for food tends to have the most control of the food supply. For the family. And if you really want to be free, you gotta abide by laws not only on the state level, but also federal level and international level. Because there are certain international laws everybody has to follow. They are there to limit political power of anyone, of everybody. Yes, even the so-called elites. If we got rid of the pathogens that are responsible for foodborne illness, we would see an ecosystem collapse. Without our cats, the world would be overrun by mice. So if we got rid of every feral cat, bad news for the it'd be bad news for the ecosystem. The reason we rubberneck is because we gotta ensure that people are okay in the event of an accident. You can't just leave them alone. Because basically what you're doing if you don't rubberneck in the car crash, you're basically leaving them to die. When you have kids, like, when you reduce the infant mortality rate, you wouldn't need to have as many kids. because chances are almost all of them would survive to adulthood. You know, smaller animals have to multiply a lot more quickly. My critique towards immigration reduction. This is just my personal opinion. We gotta control the population. To make sure we don't... Because China's population has already exceeded carrying capacity. China's population has already exceeded carrying capacity, which means China had to impose a one-child policy, which is really hard to enforce. Because it might involve human rights violations to enforce it. It's hard to enforce a policy like that if there's a high infant mortality rate. How will America make sure the population is below carrying capacity? Immigration reduction is one possible way. Not only that, but also reducing the size of the family to just about 2 kids per mother. For the first husband, or first sexual partner, and then 1 child per extra sexual partner. Wars of the future will be fought over water. World War III would probably end up being traced back to water conflicts. Even if we stopped fighting each other over food, we'd still be fighting other animals over food. Especially mice. Cats play a very important role in the ecosystem. When your cat brings home a pretty gruesome present to you, that doesn't just mean that they love you. It also means another thing. They are teaching you how to hunt. They are teaching you how to hunt. There's another meaning to those gory gifts that cats like to bring you. Anyways, this is it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you like this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Subscribe for more. Share this with your comrades on social media. As always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. Follow me on Instagram for more content. As always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more, and peace out.